I guess it helps if I unmute. But hey, I was just saying thanks to everybody for joining me on this video. And this is my Mystic Path to Soul Illumination live feed that I've been doing for quite a while. I just restarted it back up roughly about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so here we are jumping back into it. So the subject today is pretty exciting. So let me first start by talking about how I work. Through my own spiritual evolution and through the how I've worked throughout my, I guess, education in spirituality, and even back from time I was a little kid, I just started seeing a theme, and I started noticing the story that was happening all around me. And it was interesting. Now, this doesn't make me any somebody special. It doesn't make me any some authority or whatever. That it means that you all have the same ability. And what I've learned is the more I slow my mind down, the more I slow my life down. It doesn't mean I'm not out there busy or doing things like that. It just means if I take a second to stop and pause and watch the world as an observer and pay attention, then things start to unfold. And so it really, you start to see the commonality and everything, and then what it's all pointing to. There's two different types of world. There's one of division and one of unity. Now, in the physical sense, most people will say right now that the world is fully divided. There's just nobody in unity. There's no hope and all that kind of stuff. And what I see is a little different. What I see is people questioning things. People starting to say, I'm tired of the way that things are. People that are looking for something more meaningful and deeper. You know, clients are coming to me and saying there has to be more to life than this. They're frustrated, they're upset, they're sad, or they're depressed because they want to change. They want something new, and they're trying to find some kind of purpose or meaning so that they can feel like their life has something to it. And what that tells me is that part of ourselves that it already is more than what we think is starting to come up. It's starting to challenge the old world view of things. And what that means is that we're starting to awaken. And it always says that there has to be a storm before the quiet comes, or it's quiet before the storm. You can flip that around. And what that's telling me is that sometimes, you know, just when we were kids, we had to go through growing pains in our body. I don't know if you guys remember those muscle growing pains and all that kind of stuff. It was painful sometimes. And with that being said, I really feel that what we're going through in our world right now is massive change. Now, I could care less about a lot of things in the world. What I care about is us going within and discovering who we actually are. And that's divine beings. We are more than this flesh, and tremendously more than this flesh. But we're going to start talking about in the topic tonight. I'm actually really excited about, because this stuff just gets me excited. So it's called The Mystic Path, The River Never Runs Dry, and Ancient Wisdom for Living in Abundance. So we're going to go across a few different areas here, and we're going to journey around the world and talk about different legends. So, but what if abundance begins by remembering your connection to the source? What if there never was a separation from the connection to source? What if it's always there? We're just in our minds think that we're separated. And as a result of the separation, we're not in flow with the higher self or higher aspects of ourselves. And the abundance feels like it's separate. However, it's actually not. So let's jump into it. And we'll jump right into our slides. So we're looking at this universal symbol of water. Now, we think of water, we think of, you know, we need this to drink, to hydrate our bodies. We need it to, you know, create rain, to water our plants. And yes, it is definitely here helping with life. However, what if it had more to do with something else? So across civilizations, water is more than just a physical necessity. It becomes one of humanity's oldest symbols. So it's centered around creation. You can't give life without water. It helps in baptism for renewal. It's a symbol of flow, the flow of water. It's also the symbolism of abundance. And you can also reflect into water. So why did so many civilizations begin their stories around water? What was that all about? And it is across civilizations, and that's what we're going to touch on this afternoon or this evening. So before creation, and a lot of these different legends, there was water. In the ancient Egypt, or the Heliopolis, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but there was none, or noon is how it's pronounced. In Mesopotamia, there was Apso, or Tiamat. And in the Hebrew Bible, there was the waters of creation. And in Hindu traditions, there was the cosmic ocean. So what is this telling us? Egypt alone held multiple creation traditions across the theological centers. However, one thing was constant: none, or noon. And so that tells us that this constant thing about the cosmic waters, or these waters, so to speak, was across all these different traditions, including in ancient Egypt. It was across, there are many different stories and legends. And so really what they're talking about, I believe, is primordial waters, the womb of creation. Think about that for a second when you think about the womb. And across many ancient traditions, primordial water symbolized infinite potential, the unseen source, undifferentiated possibility, and the beginning of creation. So before form, there is possibility. So the primordial waters, what if there was about the possibility before creation? Where is this creation going? And so let's dive a little deeper into this. So noon, the primordial waters from which creation emerges, in Mot, it is the living in harmony with cosmic order. So now also noon was associated with chaos sometimes. And so that's very interesting when you think about it, because water can be very chaotic. So you bring in Mot, and this is then living in harmony with cosmic order. So this teaching that creation begins with possibility and becomes expression. So you are the living expression as a human being in the Christian sense of God. And it lies within you. The temple of God is within you. So we've been talking about. So you're the living expression of this primordial water. And that's pretty cool, because you're made up of what? Substantially amount of water. And so that just makes you go, So what did these ancients see? They saw something a lot more than what we're looking at. So a lot of people with spirituality, they look at these books and they look at all these texts and they get really heavy into, has to be this way, this is the rules. And when you have the rules, you block the flow of energy. Now there is cosmic order, natural law that governs the universe. And when we fall in flow with that, then that really starts to help us live in this primordial water. And when we start becoming the living expression, we live within those realms, and we're in flow. And when we're in flow with it, our life becomes happier. So let's go on to the Ogdo Odd. I'm probably mispronouncing that as well, but this goes into the tradition, describes 8 primordial forces existing before creation, 4 complementary pairs. None and or nonette are the primordial waters. And then you got the infinity and boundlessness. And then you got darkness and the unknown. And you got the hiddenness and the unseen. So creation doesn't begin with things. It begins with possibility again. So it's always about the unknown, the symbolic meaning of these things. So the primordial pair, it shows you, and this is in the Egyptian traditions. And then it really brings you down into the symbolic meanings of each one of them, which is really, when you think about it, the same thing, or similar. And so when we're going in this, looking at these reoccurring patterns, Egyptian tradition tells us that water, darkness, infinity, or hiddenness. And Genesis talks about the formless earth, darkness over the deep, the spirit over the waters. And then in depth of psychology, uncertainty, the unknown, the unrealized potential. So not objects, not planets, not people. In every tradition, creation begins with what cannot be seen. So this is, again, what we get caught up in. We get caught up in all these, and I think these are fascinating too, but we get caught up in these ancient alien theories. We get caught up in, stuff, people in the underground, or, all angels and all that other kind of stuff. And I'm not against any of that. I'm just saying that these are symbols of what is already inside of us. And we get caught up too much on what's going out here instead of what's flowing in here. And so before creation, before form, before abundance, there is possibility. So that tells me that because you're an expression of this, There's infinite possibilities that is you living here on this matter or this earth or this physical plane. And what we talked about in other segments of this, we talk about the 7 archons are here to confuse you and keep you trapped in this material world when you are so much more than the material world. So and perhaps the greatest poverty is not lack of resources, it's forgetting that possibility still exists. Say that one more time. The possibility still exists. So when we're kind of going on into ancient wisdom and the symbolic conversation, when we're starting to talk about this, ancient traditions describe creation emerging from primordial waters. Modern physics describes systems using wave functions of possibility before observation. So primordial waters, the wave function or symbolic, this is saying symbolic comparison. But hey, we've got this wave of what? Water that is about possibility. And then we got infinite potential and multiple possibility outcomes. And then you have creation and observed physical states. So something comes up with an idea and it starts coming down here in the physical matter. And then what does it become? It has infinite potential, and then it becomes something. So inventions are like that. Music is like that. When we write books, an idea or whatever somebody's studying, energy healing, whatever we brought into this world, it started off with possibility. And so therefore you're a part of creating. And then seeing world as a measurable reality. So this is symbolic comparison, obviously not a claim that ancient myths anticipated quantum mechanics. Maybe they did, though. Who knows? I think that they saw a lot more than what we feel because they were more connected to this energy. So right now we're in this level of non-unity, and we're not, but like I said in the beginning, we're starting to wake up. We're starting to understand more of who we are. And because we're starting to understand more of who we are, guess what gets to end up happening? That connection opens our hearts, it opens our energy, and opens ourselves up to our infinite possibilities of who we already are, that expression here in this physical world. So the Bible also begins with water. Now the earth was formless and empty, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Can't make this stuff up. You really can't make it up at all. And so then we go on to Genesis, and the river flowed out of Eden to the water, the garden. So you can notice here the primordial waters, the river, the garden, and then life. And you notice the progression here. Comes down from that cosmic energy, that Holy Spirit, that whatever we call God, whatever. And it goes down and it rivers down, goes into the river, waters the garden, and then births it into life. So this is when we're talking about law of attraction, principles, all that kind of stuff. It starts with that cosmic energy, and then the river, and then it goes down into the garden and is created and bringing in life. So you have to start up in your higher self. Well, we're trying to manifest and create down here with the brain, the ego. And so when we talk about edging God out, we're not saying get rid of the ego. That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. What we're saying is open your mind so that you can open it up to infinite possibilities. Not kill the ego. Allow it to flow with all that is so that you can create here in this moment, in this physical plane. So when we're talking about Abraham, when you think about it, Abraham was one of the wealthiest characters in the Bible. And why was he one of the wealthiest? So God calls him Abraham. Abraham responds, and only then does blessings unfold. And then, so teaching us this faith precedes provision. So he had to step into something. He had to act on something. And then the whole world started to open up for him. Then this is where he was vulnerable. He didn't hold back. He allowed that spirit to flow through him and work through him. And miracles happened because he was in flow with that primordial or that cosmic or that divine energy, whatever you want to call it. We can come up with a million different words because there's a million different words across civilizations. And this is why I was telling you about the story. There's the story that's trying to tell us and open us up to all the flow of infinite possibilities. And you're connected to that. But you've been lied to. and told that you're not, that it doesn't exist, because we get hung up on words like God or goddess or pagan or Christian or Templars or Masons or whatever. Shut up. Follow your heart. Follow that guidance and follow that higher self. And that's your teacher. That's the one that's guiding you through all this. And because we get too caught up in our minds and not in the flow of divine spirit that's trying to guide us. So Abram had become very wealthy in livestock and in silver and in gold. Prosperity followed alignment. When he started getting aligned with this energy, it wasn't the destination, it was the fruit. It was bared the fruit of his labor, of being in flow with all of creation, infinite possibility. And when you started looking at that, you start going, wait a second, then why the heck am I sitting here manifesting with my brain and not in flow with all that is me? And that's the problem. That's the separation, because we've sitting there, we have to figure it out. We have to have all the ducks in a row before I can get up there, because I have to have all the techniques, because I don't want everybody to think bad about me. Are you freaking kidding me? Just get out there and do it. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have things that happen. People are going to laugh at you. People are going to make jokes and make fun of you. It's just a part of life. Get over yourself and go out there and do it. And I can guarantee you that those people that don't get you, they will fall out of your life. They will leave and they won't be a part of your life. And you're going to start getting in there and you're going to really start shining, because then the people that are supposed to be in your life, they're going to be around. And that's pretty exciting, don't you think? You're going to be aligned with the people that you're supposed to be around because you said yes to your soul. So stop holding back and allow yourself to fall in flow with your soul, and whatever that looks like. It doesn't matter. If you're in flow with your soul, then you're on the right path. And some people will say, well, how do you do that? I can guarantee you those thoughts are already there. You've just hesitated because the TV told you couldn't, your dad told you couldn't do it, your grandpa, your grandma, your husband, your wife, your kids, whatever, your teachers, whatever, your spiritual teachers, they said, no, you don't follow the process. This is the rules of how you have to do it. If you're not harming anybody and you're operating in the highest and best good and you pray for the highest best good, all those kind of things, then you're in alignment. And yes, you may make mistakes. You're going to do some crazy things to figure it out. But how you learn is getting out there and doing them. And this is proven by science as well. You have to get out there and mess up in order to find yourself. And when you finally do and fall into flow, then things start opening up to you. You have to do that wrestle that we were talking about, Jacob's wrestle that he had, and we talked about in the last conversation that I did last week. So going into being the steward, and Abraham chooses peace over conflict, he gives tithe to Melchizedek. Now, I know I used to have a big block on the word tithe. Tithe just means I'm participating in maintaining whatever it is I'm trying to maintain. So, and it doesn't always mean money. These prosperity ministers drive me crazy, that you have to give this in order, and then it comes back tenfold, whatever. How about give of the goodness of your soul and your heart, whatever that looks like, and the abundance comes back to you 100-fold. So it could be giving of service. It could be acting on what you're passionate about. It could be the greatest nurse in the world. It could be the greatest engineer in the world, whatever. You give of that. And yes, of course, sometimes you give money and you support in charities and all that other kind of stuff. And then people are like, I don't want to be taken advantage of. If you felt it and you're acting in alignment with your soul, the truth will always come out. So if somebody is taking advantage of you or a charity is not doing the right things, it's going to come out. So you give for you in alignment with your soul, and it will guide you to the right and perfect things. So stop stressing our mind. The monkey mind is working too hard here. So continuing and going on, when we're talking about John the Baptizer, we talked about this last week as well. The water that I shall give him shall become in him a spring of water. Living water never runs dry because it remains connected to its source. The source of the primordial water never runs out. Abundance never runs out. You're always abundant. Whatever is of your good of your prosperity. It's always there. You can't lose what is divinely yours. It's impossible. Now, you can turn your back on it. You can continue to focus in on what the physical world tells you to have, says you have to have in order to be successful, says you have to have in order to be happy, and all that kind of stuff. Whatever it says. I mean, there's so many schmucks out there trying to tell everybody how to live, and really they don't even know how to live themselves. There's the disclosure community telling people that blah 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 this. There's the vegans, and then there's the Christians, and then everybody has a judgment on another person about how they should live. And I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just saying that live your life, whatever feels right for you. And then there's the old saying, not my circus, not my monkey. Get out of my garden. Stop shooting on my life. And what that's saying is fall in alignment. And I can guarantee you that if other people believe in what you're there, they're going to rally together and major change will happen in the world, because the highest and best good, truth will always come out when we start aligning with truth within ourselves. So when we go into Enoch, the higher Enoch ascends, the more clearly he sees. So the higher the frequency, the higher the energy, the higher we align with truth, the higher we align with who we are and being authentic with ourselves, the more clearly we will see. And when we're down here in this lower energy, when we're constantly worrying about judgment, we're fear about shame, when we're fear about being judged, when we're all that kind of stuff, that frequency keeps us bound and blind, because that's what we talked about in the last couple episodes as well, the 7 archons. That's their job. Their job is to confuse you, and they feed off of that. So perspective changes possibility. Abundance often begins with seeing differently. So one of the things that frustrates me somewhat about some of the law of attraction teachings is they talk about, positive thoughts create. No, they don't. No, they don't. Positive thoughts do not create. You understanding who you are on a deeper level and being in alignment with your higher aspects, that creates, and it's intentional. So going on, Jacob spent years chasing blessings, then he wrestled, then he remembered. We talked about this in the last episode. Blessings isn't taken, it's received, because you finally realize who you were in the first place. You weren't lacking in the first place. You finally realize, why am I doing it this way when I can be in flow with all that is? And wow, the blessings will be coming in. So we spend too much time thinking. So stop your stinking thinking and start falling into this. So the tree of life, the unseen, sustains the seen. So the river nourishes the garden, the sap nourishes the tree, and neither can be seen. So yet both sustain life. So perhaps abundance is sustained, but an unseen source. So think about that. Think about that for a second. The river nourishes the garden, the sap nourishes the tree. Neither can be seen, yet both sustain life. So the tree doesn't sit there and go, wonder where that sap's coming from. Doesn't work that way. So what blocks flow? Things like when we say there isn't enough. I don't have enough money. I'm broke. I'm not healthy. I am not enough. When you say, I'm just not good enough. I'm not attractive enough. People don't love me, all that kind of stuff. That blocks flow. Someone else has my blessings. Oh my goodness. How did they come up with that idea? I've been thinking about that for so long. How did they get it? Oh, I missed out. Oh, woe's me. That blocks. I miscontrol everything. Oh, if you have to get something done, you just have to do it yourself. I have to get in there and do it instead of trusting other people and trusting the community, the collective that's here to help me. I must earn love. This is a big one for me. I had to be out there, butt and everything. And it doesn't mean you can't be nice. It just means love is already there. My worth depends on what I possess. I got the most beautiful cars and the most beautiful clothes, and there is nothing wrong with any of these things. But if you're doing it because you're trying to find other people's love or acceptance or understanding, then you missed out. You missed it. I am separate from the source. You're not separate from anything. You were never separate. There is no being in the sky that has a white flowing beard judging you. It's within you and it's all around you and you're a part of it. So then there's 10 stages when there's a journey that happens, and this is consistent across spirituality. So we have the hidden and the potential in the waters, creation, river, garden, Abraham, the abundance, living water, the tree of life, and then the fruit just starts to bear of what you started. So you go in, you meditate, you start to see and feel. And what I would like you to start doing is when you want something, you want to create something in your life, I want you to, like, let's say you want to get married or you want to fall in love. I don't want you to visualize you falling in love. I want you to visualize what it's going to be like 6 months after you fall in love, a year from now after you've fallen in love. What does that look like? Are you asking them, hey, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Hey, did you want to go see that movie this weekend? Hey, what are we going to, so-and-so, they want us to come over for a party this week. And I want you to start visualizing that, sitting on the television, sitting in front of the television, watching a movie. How you're going to resolve conflict. Like, visualize these conversations. Actually visualize a relationship, because what that's going to do is it's going to take that hidden, that love and that romance that's already there, and it's going to start creating it through those waters, because you were already abundant in the first place, and the seeds are going to be planted for the garden, and then it's going to get watered, and then finally the fruit will bear. But if you're looking and seeing it when you're trying to see and visualize you falling in love, that's still in that wishing energy. But when you see it further down the line and you start acting out what it'll be like, what's it going to be like when you are buying your first house together? Visualize that. You're walking in, you're seeing it, and you're picking out all the colors. You're picking out the towels. You're arguing over the colors for the kitchen. You're thinking about, oh man, I hate it when he does that, and but I still love him. And you're going through all the dynamics of what a relationship would look like. What you're doing is you're opening your energy up to creation. It's really kind of fun. So the journey begins in what cannot be seen. Notice where abundance appears, not at the beginning, but as the fruit of the whole arc. Because the abundance was always there. And what you're doing is now you're tapping into that primordial waters and allowing yourself through your energy, not your mind. That's why, please help me, people police water or police words that you say, cancel that, cancel that. I'm like, no. Start going up and expanding your energy and getting up there and start feeling this energy of what it feels like when you're already in that relationship. So ask yourself this week, I want you to ask you this question: what river am I drawing from my life from? Fear, control, or scarcity? Or am I drawing it from the source of all that is? So just kind of looking at this in our closing here today, the river never struggles to flow. The trees never chase fruit. The sun never tries to shine. Everything in creation flourishes because it remains connected to its source. Perhaps abundance isn't something we create. Perhaps abundance is what naturally emerges when we remember where the river begins. So these are my references if you want to screenshot it, if you want to take a look at it. And by the way, if you really want to help me, you can share this, comment, like it. This really helps me a lot. And you can check out my website. My book is there, The Sovereign Mindset. There is a way to get sessions with me and find out more about me, connect with me on my other social media platforms. I love to stay connected, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Much love, everybody. And I'm grateful to be able to be here and tell you who you are. You are an empowered being. Yeah, say it louder.